I'm Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. So the update I have on the new podcasts are that I have done the first 2 episodes for all of them, and the new podcasts also have trailers for all of them. And in case you haven't heard me talk about them, there is one called Shiro, which is about being your own hero, and there's one called Think Out for Your Imagination, which is about unleashing your imagination and being a little kid again, and Chat Sparks and Growls combos with your pet is about bringing your pets to life and telling their stories and what they think about and what you think they would say if they had a voice. So that was kind of fun. I will provide the links for all of these in the podcast description so that you can go watch the trailers, and then you can listen to the new episodes if you want to as well. Thank you. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/. I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. I also want to mention to you that I just launched my podcast swag on Wednesday of this week and have a page for it on my website, and I will also send you the link to it in the podcast description, and I will also send it to you in the newsletter that I usually send out on Fridays. I am now selling t-shirts, water bottles, and a backpack, and they all have the podcast logo and title on it and the tagline. So I'm looking forward to watching the sales and seeing who buys them, and spreading the word more about my podcast. Happy Friday. So today's episode is about NLD, body insecurity, and how they relate to each other. So for me, this episode might be triggering to you in some way because I'm going to be talking about sexual abuse and how it relates to body insecurity, and I'm going to be talking about my chronic migraines. So just forewarning you. So have you ever had body insecurities because of being sexually abused or having a learning challenge, or because of both? For me, it's a yes to both, because it's hard for me to lose weight because of my chronic migraines, which are sometimes episodic, and because of NLD, and because of sexual abuse and how all that correlates to each other. NLD makes it challenging because of being too self-conscious about what others think of me, and thinking, well, if they think I'm fat, maybe I am fat, sort of thing. Or because of the visual spatial, where I have challenges with visual spatial and gross motor skills, and that makes exercising hard, where I want to have fun doing that activity. But if I'm constantly thinking about how not to fall or injure myself, is it really fun? Not really. That's the answer. But if it comes more naturally to me, like hiking or running or skiing does, then yes, it is fun because I've learned it, because I've done it for so many years. And because I do it with my family, that makes it more fun. And I do it with my friends as well. And that's why I like trying to do surfing. But it's not really fun like it is for my brother, because of NLD. It's so hard for me to time getting up on the surfboard when there's water moving underneath me, and not getting out of breath with paddling out in the water, and being safe and mindful of animals that are like sharks or stingrays that are out there at the same time. So that's a factor. Another factor of trying to lose weight is the visual spatial factor of NLD, with trying to imagine, okay, what's the right portion for me to eat of vegetables or pasta or bread. And if I don't ask for help with that, I might eat too much, or I might not eat enough. So it can be hard for me to visualize that. That's a factor. This is why I usually ask my mom to help me with portioning, or I check with her, hey, is this a good portion of pasta for dinner, or whatever she made, salad, or risotto, whatever it may be. So I kind of be like, yeah, I can do this on my own. Or like, no, I want her to do it the first couple of times, but watch how much she puts in, so I can do it in the future when I'm living on my own. Because sometimes your eyes are bigger than your stomach, right? And that can get in the way. Another factor for me, and this also correlates to NLD, is people with NLD, and maybe you experience this too, even if you don't have NLD, usually our pace is naturally slower than others. And I'm talking about physical pace. We don't, and this also relates to our mental pace as well. If we don't pick up something as quickly because of our gross motor challenges or physical pace being slower, then it's going to be harder for us when we want to exercise because we're still learning how to do it. And we're still learning because we're still learning how to do it. It's not very fun for us or enjoyable. Which makes us wonder why we're even doing it. If we're constantly thinking about how can I not injure myself? How can I not fall and break a bone? Or am I having the right form when I'm lifting weights? Yeah, that's a part of that. And another reason why I find it difficult to lose weight with NLD is usually it being harder to deal with emotions and not bottle them up. I've bottled up my emotions because of being sexually abused, because of the aftermath of that, and because of not knowing how to protect myself from being taken advantage or manipulated by men. And I know not all men are bad, but I've had a lot of experiences that have been positive with men in my life. And because of that, I've put on weight, and usually it's 40 pounds. That's happened to 4 times. And I've done that because my mechanism is to overeat to protect myself, because I think if I'm unattractive, I'm not going to be hurt by a guy or be taken advantage of, which isn't right to think that way. Because it's more damaging than helpful. It's not true. There are other ways for me to protect myself, and I'm glad that when I did disclose to my family that about my sexual abuse, that I had the timing right. I was 12 years old. I didn't get pregnant as a result because I hadn't had my period yet, my first one. And I realized I was the only one that could stop it, even though in the back of my mind, I was afraid of being in trouble because of my cousin's influence on me and his thoughts. But I was wrong. He was the only one that got in trouble. I wasn't in trouble. It wasn't my fault. It was his fault. And, realizing that is powerful because oftentimes when something like that happens, it's a he said, she said scenario. And if there's no witness or witnesses, it's hard to back up the story or stories in this case. And then it's hard for the people involved to believe, okay, well, who's right, who's not, who's wrong, and be like, no, how can somebody make this up? And why would they make it up? And is it even kind or right or necessary to minimize it? It's not. And,
because this person's family, it's better to believe in them, and it's the right thing to do and to support them. And this does relate to weight because the little girl inside me thought the reason to gain weight was to protect myself because, like I said before, maybe if I'm not attractive, I won't be hurt again in this way. And recently, I have some examples to share with you that relate to this. And let me take a water break and then I'll share them with you. But they were, okay, sorry, this is a little hard for me to talk about. But recently, and I'm talking about in the last few months this year, I've been dating again, and I was chatting with somebody on a dating app. We'll just call him Sam. And we were going to meet in person, but he brought up the topic of politics and said that he was pro-life and a Republican. And I dug a little deeper because I was curious why he believes that in that way. And I asked him if he was still pro-life if the pregnancy was a result of rape. This was shortly after Roe v. Wade was overturned. And he said yes, he would be pro-life because he wants the baby to have a chance to make a good influence or positive influence in the world. And that was a shock to me based on my experience in that area. I can understand somebody wanting a child to have a chance to have a good influence in the world. But my values and my opinion, I'm pro-choice because, damn it, it's a woman's body. They should have the choice and control over their body. It's not the government's choice. It's not the father's choice. Yes, he can have some say in it, but it's the woman's choice. It's her body. And usually when it's abortion, it's the guy's fault because the woman was raped or didn't know enough to know what was happening, or maybe they're not in the right financial situation to have a child. But, you know, usually it's not the woman's fault. In some cases it is. But in my experience, the guy has input too. And like I was saying, it's the woman's choice, not the guy's choice. That's just my belief or beliefs. And I stood up for myself in that scenario where I was like, I can't meet you. I told him why about me being sexually abused. And he said he was sorry that happened, but it didn't really feel like he was sorry based on what he was saying before he knew, before I disclosed to him. And I'm not going to be in a relationship with somebody again like I was with my ex, where they try to manipulate my beliefs and they're successful, or I let them be successful. And that changes my family relationships. It makes them really bad because then I'm lying and my parents can't trust me anymore. I've done a lot of work recently to repair that because of the second example I was going to share with you is the con artist reappeared on my Facebook account earlier this year in August. And the way that happened was he used two first names on his account. He just flipped the order of them. and put a profile photo of him with a mask on. And we'll call him, it doesn't matter what his name is, but it mattered that I recognized what he was trying to do. He was trying to win and trying to calm me again. And it didn't work this time. I blocked him and I stood up for myself and I shared with my family that that happened. Um, and I didn't let him win because I learned from him winning the first time, conning me the first time, that um, that kind of experience and how you react to it and how you're involved in it can really mess up your life and turn it upside down. Because it's a toxic relationship, and you have to be careful how you react to those things and how you let it impact other things in your life, like your relationship with your family members or friends that you consider family. Um, anyways, that relates to weight because because usually when somebody goes through something emotional, they either gain weight or they lose weight, um, because they're trying to deal with their emotions. For me, I usually gain weight, whether it's because of the con artist, because of dating, or because of my past romantic relationships, resurfacing as well with my ex wanting to date me again and me being like, no, I don't want to date you again. I don't want to go through that toxic relationship again. I don't want to be hurt, and I don't want you to be hurt. Um, and I don't want my family to be hurt, more importantly, like they were from that, the first go around. And that corresponds to the weight piece because I, more recently, with all those things resurfacing, and dealing with having, tapering off and stopping my migraine medication that I was using for 2 years, um, or since 2019. I think that's more than 2 years. Um, I stopped because 3 years, because they weren't helping me anymore. And I was like, I really don't like having migraines because it makes me frustrated and it makes me have a different tone of voice and it makes me not pleasant to interact or work with my family. And it's not pleasant. So I met with my doctor and figured out what works and what doesn't work. And what I found out that is, my self-injection does work. And so does a pill called Neurotech. Just those two things help to bring the frequency and intensity down for me. So I'm not having a migraine every day of my life, every month and every year. It's down to half now. So it's 15, way better than 30. Sometimes 10 or 8, way better. And this does relate to being healthy and eating right, because like I said in the past, when you are going through something emotional change or a chronic pain, or going through life and trying to deal with your challenges because of having NLD or a different learning challenge, it's hard to juggle all that. And it's hard to not get lost, not let your own identity get lost in that, and be like, damn it, excuse my language, I can protect myself. I can be healthy while trying to manage all these other things. I realized I do need help to balance these pieces and juggle these balls or plates, whatever you want shape you want to reference, and be able to manage your chronic pain and enjoy life and manage your challenges from your learning differences and your emotional challenges along with your physical ones, and rely on the support that you have from your family and friends or your therapist to help you through those challenges, because it's hard to work through it on your own, and you shouldn't have to. Yes, I'm going through losing 20 pounds this time, not 40, because I stopped myself halfway and I realized why I was doing it, that I was trying to protect myself by making myself unattractive, because I felt like that was a way to protect myself, and realized it's not. It's connected to my past. I don't need to do that anymore. There are other ways for me to protect myself. Like I shared beforehand with those personal experiences. And that is very powerful for me. And I hope it can be powerful for you too, in realizing, yes, you can exercise and enjoy it. And yes, it's okay to ask for help. It is not a weakness. It is a sign of strength, because you are realizing that you need help and that you cannot do it on your own, because you don't want to do it on your own. You want somebody to help you through this experience, because next time you go through it, you might not have that same person to help you. But if you do, you know they can help you because they did it before. Or you need help from somebody else because of your living circumstances changing, and you know how they can help you because you've had somebody else help you in the past. And yeah, I hope you can find something insightful from this episode in what I've shared with you today, and apply it to your own life or to a loved one that you know, and be able to reach out to them and be like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Can I support you in any way? Whether that's just listening, offering advice if they want and are able to hear it, or helping them pay for your therapy sessions like my parents do, or helping them with portioning their food and being their exercise buddy, or whatever it may be that they need. You know, you can do something, even if it's small to you, it can be a big, huge help to them. And then they can pay you back by helping you when you're in a difficult situation too. And that's to me is a wonderful gift when that happens. So, talk to you next week.
As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also, see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.